Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on my channel. Thanks for anybody who's subscribed recently or in the past. I do appreciate it. As I said before, I don't really ask people to subscribe, but if there's something that you find of value here, please feel free. Right, I've got a new tool that arrived a couple of days ago, but we've had really bad snowy weather. I've got a compression tester, so I'm going to fire this up when everything stays still. I'm going to fire this up, stick it in the top of the cylinder, and we'll see what readings we've got cold and hot. As I said in my last video about this scooter, it runs great, no problem whatsoever. It's just on the initial start up it doesn't want to know, but the chokes are very primitive etc on them anyway, so we will discuss and I'll show you the choke mechanism. Basically it's just a flat that goes through a hole, and it's just like doing that, putting your hand across the top of the carburetor. It's that primitive, for lack of a better word. But what I'll do is I'll get the spark plug out, I'll take the panel off and that crash bar on this side, and I'll cut back in when I've got the camera in place. Right, so I've stuck it all on, taken the spark plug out. Spark plug's nice and golden, if a little bit wet. And it's as far in I think as I can get it. So if I put the camera back there. This is cold, by the way, they tell you in the booklet to do it warm. So take the tools off there, I don't want anything crashing down on my good paint job. So it's not going above that, which is 75. I'd say that's about 85 pounds per square inch, which I would have said is pretty damn good cold anyway. So I'm going to take it off, see if I can get it going. Warm it up. And take another reading when it's warm, because that's what they tell you to do in the instructions for the compression tester. Don't do it on a cold engine. It's another good, I suppose, test for a leak down test, isn't it? Or maybe not, but as you can see, the 100 is just slightly left as you're looking at it, which I would have said is pretty good compression. It does feel good when you kick it over anyway. So right, I'm just going to stop that, take it off. I don't want people just sitting there watching silly things really. I just wanted to show the spark. If we can get in on there. That's on. See, brilliant spark. Nothing wrong with the spark, let me just turn off the ignition. And we'll try and start it. You'll see what my problem is from the, I mean, it has been icy here. When you start it up, run it for the day, no problem at all. It's just that initial from freezing cold start. It just doesn't want to go from being icy cold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the choke's working. It's drawing fuel in as it should do. Like I say, it's pretty primitive how it works, so there's not a lot to it. There's no choke jet as such. That'll do, it's tight enough. So the fuel's on, choke's pulled. I have actually got a rag, as I said in the last video here. I'll kick it a couple of times so it'll give you an idea what my problem is. It should really go within 1 or 2 kicks. One. There's absolutely nothing there. I'm just going to take off the airbox and I'll show you by hand what the actual choke does in theory. There's 3 screws on the top and black japanned with a point on them. You often see these go on walkies as well. I was lucky with this bike that it was more or less a complete scooter. Most of the bits body wise it's all original. I haven't changed anything apart from the handlebars, as I said in the last video. If I get time I'll pull them out and show you the reason why. The previous owner, I mean the cables on these, again they go through tubes in the frame and they can be quite tedious to change. So it's one of them where you're trying to slag people off for keeping something running and keeping something on the road that is technically way past its prime, if you like. So there's our air filter, our air box. And if I remove this, I can take this lug off here as well, I suppose. Either of them, it don't really matter. There we go. You don't have to take it off. I'll take it because I don't want it to fall anywhere. But the air filter's held on with a screw under here, or I think it's an 8 M8 socket will do it, or let's see if I can get it with a screwdriver. It's more lining it up to painting in the backside. This is a stud. Normally I put stainless steel in. If you watch any of my other videos you'll know I'm a bit of a lover of stainless steel nuts and bolts. It's an nylock. And we've got a drain tube going down the back which will pull up. Let me show you. It's got like a crinkle finish on it. I don't know if you can pick that up. That's about 15 quid a tin. Spray, it's heat resistant crinkle paint, American stuff. The bottom's just plain shiny black, and the cowling itself is the same as the airbox cover. It's got like a industrial crinkle finish on it. Was an 8. I did think it was. So don't take it all the way out, just loosen it off, and then this airbox will come. I don't know if we can see, everything's so bloody cold again. That's the bracket that's holding it on. I can leave that down there out of the way at the moment. So in effect, inside here there's a slider that comes up and down and blocks the air off. That's what I was saying to you about it being primitive. So in effect, it's just doing that on the carburetor. Really, really primitive, isn't it? But when it works, it works. I mean, you've got to remember these. This is 61 years old this year, so right. So I'll probably have to open the doors or I'll choke myself to death. But you'll see the difference with just covering over. Right, I've taken the carburetor off. It's starting with some like spray oil down it to fire up, but as soon as it fires up, it dies straight away. So it's either a block jet or I'm not getting petrol. Oh, let's get the socket on. I think it's a 14 for that. Oh, a 14 here. What I want is the wrong way around. I'm going to take the float mechanism off because the jets are inside there, so excuse me while I just undo that. They're not over tight. Right, so I couldn't get the bike started only with spraying some WD-40 down the carburetor intake. It seemed to be a block jet or fuel starvation. So where's my socket set? On there. So I'm just going to take off the float mechanism. It's that bolt at the back, and then we've got our main jet and our tick-over jet. There is our beast. You see that in there? And I believe that is blocked. I've got an 8mm on the atomizer. I'm just undoing that. Then I'm going to take the jet off. Sorry, you can't see that again. I do like these programs that have got proper studios and, you know, etc., where everything is just in shot all the time. You know, it's just Mission Impossible doing it in a little shed like I'm doing, really, but you know, it's more true to life. So right, there's our jet out of our atomizer. And we've got our pilot jet, which is in there. Let me see if I can get the light onto it for you to see it. And I'll shine it in there. I'm sure you can see that jet on the top. That's your pilot jet. That's your tick over screw. Or sorry, your air screw. Tick over screw, and that's your air screw. I'll get me let's see, put back into right. Well, that jet that's hidden in up in there. Need a smaller screwdriver than that. There's that one. No. I'm going to stop this and go and get a proper screwdriver set. That was in very, very not snug, but in quite good. Right, the size of that, that's our pilot jet. That's the one I believe would be blocked. The pilot jet goes into there, so it's basically past the slide. So if your slide's completely closed, obviously you'd be cutting air off, but In this case you'd still be getting petrol through, hence why when you cut it off it should start. Right, so I'm going to put that screw back in again, all the way in. Right, and then go half, one, 1.5, and then lock it there. They're not the easiest things to adjust. I don't know whether they did it in the factory on special jigs, because you can get air flow meters that sit on the top, so as long as they've got a vacuum they could have in all effects done it that way. So right, so what we're doing now is our main jet, which is clear. That one's clear, and it's got a 105 in it as a main jet. I'd have to check if that's correct afterwards. I don't have the charts in front of me at the moment, but we will clean it up again. I'll put our hair through there. The reason I use nylon and not metal is they're very, very soft. The jets are very, very soft, and you don't want to you know, it says 105 on it and it's a 110 by the time you've started reaming it out. So yeah, they've gone through, and I can suck air through that. So let's get the atomizer, which is a 260. So I'm going to write all these down on a bit of paper I've got there. I've got 105 with a 260 on it. Pens there. And of course all the paper's gone in 2-stroke oil, but I'll have it. I can write it on there, 260, 105, main jet. Just blew through the atomizer, clear as a bell. So again, let's put in the socket, the spanner on that, and just giving that a quarter of a, not even a quarter of a turn, just tightening it up. That's it. And we can put that back in to the main choke body. Why do old threads never go straight in? They always appear. I don't know whether they swell over years, or it's just tightening it up with the spanner. And again, that's tight. I just ream it up a bit tighter. This screw here is for our slide, which I've taken out. Let me go and get the slide. Right, so I'm going to put the pin back in, and I want to try and get it into the third notch down. Actually, if I pull you back a bit, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. We're after 1, 2. We're after basically the middle, so we're after that location there. It's a shame it don't just sit on top, dead easy to do. You have to count them through that little aperture there. So take it all the way in. One, 2, 3. There. so it's more or less level. I didn't know I would have put that on originally to that anyway. So right, so if we put the slide back in, you notice it's got a groove and a cutout, the half moon always to you, and it's got a slide on it. Thing. Well, I'm just tightening up the cap. In an ideal world, there's a little cutout in there that holds this from turning. Mine's like so many of the other ones, it's broken, bigger than it should be. So we can see through there. If I shine the light behind it, you should be able to see a light. See that light there? That's the air going through. So again, like we did before on the PX, we need to adjust the tick over. So we need to undo the bolt on the side and the nut. Take it all out so you can see what it looks like. Again, they're both M8s. You've got a lock-in brass nut, and you've got a long bolt with a pin on it. So you should be able to see when I've taken that out. Hopefully we can't see any light now from the back. See that? So a tick over, that wouldn't run. That in effect's like having the choke on full. I'm just going to give that a wipe again. So we've loosely set up the air screw. We've loosely set up, or we will be, the tick over. Again, 1.5 turns. The battery just died on me there, but at least I heard it this time. So what I was basically saying was that there shouldn't be any light visible through there, which you can't see. And we've set our air screw at 1.5, and we're going to be turning this one to 1.5 as well, which is your tick over. You can, what most people do is they use the adjuster here, the cable adjuster for your tick over. So do the cable tight and just adjust it from there. That's okay until the cable stretches. I'm just going to take off that nut and just give that thread a wipe. Ideally nobody would have played with this before and the nuts won't be rounded, etc., but that's not real life, is it? Right, so give that nut a wipe. It looks a little bit like it's an eye lock, you know, the shape of it, but it's not. It's just, it turns nice and free. So right, give that body a wipe again, and then we're putting in our tick over screw, and then this should rise, the slide should ride away. Let's see if I can keep you in the loom here, in the loop. Put that down a bit, maybe there. Yeah, that's a little bit better, I suppose, from a viewer's point of view. So I'm going to turn that all the way in while watching. I can feel it starting to touch on the slide now, and the slide's opening. Let's get a spanner on it. And I'm screwing it all the way in. Not going mad, of course. As I said before, it's only soft alloy. Right, so that's in tight. And what I'm going to do is mark. Of course, he does drop the pen. you're back in again. So what I'm going to do now is mark just a little bit on the edge, so I've got a reference for turning that out 1.5 turns. So hopefully you can see this. So that's half, 1 and 1.5, a little bit past 1.5, but then I'm just going to hold the screw while I'm going to tighten up the locking bolt, not even. I need another, so I'm just having one on the lock nut and one to hold the air screw in place. Again, this is a lot easier to do. Right, so that's locked at 1.5. So I held that out of 1 and just tightened up the locking. And if I stick the light behind it again, you should be able to see light behind. That's it. Now that's not a 100% proper lined up air screw adjustment. That's just going by what Del Auto say you should have on it. So we've got somewhere to fight from. Right, now we're going to have a look at the filler. Right, let's get this wiped down again. Put new washers on it. I don't think it's this, to be honest with you, but we will take it out and I'll show you again what's in it. We take off the screws at the top, and that will show you the float. And we've got a needle that acts on the bottom. So what's happening with the float sits on top of a needle and it's held in with a circlip, which we should be able to see, and we have a gasket inside the top there. You can see that. So the pin moves up and down inside there, and it can't go past. I mean, there's not a great deal of room there at all, is there? But the circlip's there. You can just push that through when you've got the bottom off. So I need my socket. Excuse me while I go and grab it. And we should just be able to, again, just turn that one off. Oh. Take it off. Rubber seal. Right, let's take that off. And if we push our jet through our needle, I can just use the open-ended part on there. There we go. I'm just pushing that needle through, and it should then come out the bottom. There it is. And it's a funny shaped beast, and what that's acting on, it just stops the fuel there. It acts as a valve that's floating on this. Float. Again, I'm going to give all that a wipe up. I don't think this was the cause of it. It just seemed to be a blocked jet, because it wouldn't stay. Once it had fired up, it wouldn't stay, which it's never done that before. Right. 7.5 gram. Right, stick that on there. And if we look on that needle, it's got a little indentation, That's where the circlip goes into. And if we look at our filler chamber, that's nice and clean, and our well, it must be clean because we just pulled the rod out of it basically, so that needle goes through that jet and it can't get clogged up with the needle jet. It can get smaller and it can fur up, but with it being open as it is at the moment, crystal clear. And there's no debris. The fact that the previous owners that had this scooter, they'd kept petrol in it, it saved the petrol tank. It's probably one of the best petrol tanks on an old GS's I've ever had. All it needed was flushing out with some new petrol, and that was it. It was absolutely brilliant. So to rebuild this, which is basically the opposite of taking it apart, we put a needle in up there, and if you see it come through there, then we want our float down on it, and we just push the needle with a little screwdriver or a pin, whatever you want, until it clicks in. A screw, I'm hoping that will go in. No, don't be silly. What have I got here? I don't know if they're long enough. Yeah, it is. I don't know if you can see that, but just a screwdriver bit, that's gone in the click there. I mean, that doesn't open a great deal, does it? But if you pull down on it, you can't hear any air blowing through here and blocking these two holes. That's sealed, so push it up. Yeah. Can you hear that? And then if I pull it up, nothing. If we undo these washers, I'm not even sure if I want to do that or not, but if I take this out again, you'll see where it fills up. I should have showed you that before, I suppose. Can you see the hole in the bottom there? That's capped off there, so they obviously drill through that and then just cap it off. That's where the fuel comes up at the bottom. So in an ideal world, that should never flood. Never ever flood. I mean, look at the condition of it inside. It's like I say, it's had petrol in it all its life. So I'm just going to stick. Actually, we will. Let's take off the two washers off of here, well, one of them anyway. They're quite tight washers because they're obviously sealing against the petrol. You can also see in this nut where the petrol comes through. I'll just put that washer back, and there's our hole. Again, put your mouth over here, seal it. That's crystal clear. There's nothing coming through the bottom as well, so I suppose if you was going to tune a bike, you'd be opening out that to give you more fuel through. So I am actually looking into maybe taking on a project of a tuned up GS engine. Penasco are supposed to be making some engine cases which go in on the swing arm. I'm not a fan of the PX engine in them. Nothing wrong with it, it's just, you know, if you've got a bigger engine that goes in on the swing arm, to me it's just, it's got to be better, isn't it? It'll look original, etc., even though it's not. And it's supposed to take nice big cranks and big cylinders, etc. So right, we can put our float back in and our needle, and I'll use that again to just knock the pin back through again. You actually hear it click, don't you? So put the lid back on there. A bit of wipe again. Then there's 2 screws that hold that lid in. It should be on there somewhere. Yeah, I can see one floating around. Just screwing on the top. If I move the card, the other one must be on there as well. Yes, it is. Right on the edge. There it is. I've got 2 screws in on the top. And trusted Vespa screwdriver. Let's do it in and then just tighten it up again, nip it up. Often see bolts put in here, and I don't know, it's just, looking at it is wrong, isn't it? But if you're looking at there, if you block that off and block that off, we shouldn't get, got no air. Yeah, not a great deal. Yeah. Nice and free. Right, so again, I'm going to reusing the washers because they're only just, you know, they're not even been on there 6 months. So we want our filler again. And it's got a rubber O-ring in there as well. You see that? Oh, there it is. I'll give that a wipe as well. That's free as well. I'll see what happens. They actually go inside when it's tightened down, fair enough. And we've got our screw, which I'm going to give a wipe as well too. Put it on that thread. What I'm doing now is I'm just pushing it over the edge. In fact, take that off and put it on there first. Nice plastic or rubber. They always want to come off, don't they? But put it on the end. And just tying it up. I'm not locking that up yet at the moment, because obviously I need to know where the fuel's going to come in. It should be somewhere like that, but if you think of it, that can go in different angles. The carburetors themselves, these old classic carburetors, there's loads of different styles of these. There's an SS version which I think might work with a tuned engine to keep it all original, although they are doing a cable choke that goes in on the air bellows, but that's mainly for larger, you know, like bigger Delautos, PBHs and stuff like that. So right, so we need to put our bolt back in and our washer back on again. They're all things you need to keep an eye on as well, these, because the last thing you want is petrol. They leak enough as it is without, you know, letting them basically do what they want. Let's put that on out the way again. After my 14mm again, I'll just tighten that back in. And there's a little bump stop which goes onto that bump stop there, so you just put it on. You should be able to turn it a couple of turns before you need to line it up. Yeah, and then just tighten one against the other one and put that in line. It's about there. There we go. So they're both lined up. In theory you could take that bracket out and move it around slightly. You can see that sits on the top of the engine on an inlet. And the petrol comes in from the back, and that's normally got a metal cover over it. I don't like that cover. I can just see it rubbing on I'd rather run out of petrol than blow my tyre out. So that's just me. We'll stick our socket on and make sure that's in place, which it is, and then tighten it up. That's sort of hand tight and a little bit more, and hopefully that's sealed. Might have to tighten it when it's on the bike if it's leaking slightly. Now if we look on there, we can do this one with a spanner anyway, but the bottom one, there we go. Same as the top one, in and slightly tight, and you can just make out where the rubber seals are there. So unfortunately, other than putting it on in this case, I can't test if it's leaking, but hopefully we can stick that on, fire the scooter up and get it running. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run some petrol through and catch it in that little tub there, make sure that it's coming through unencumbered. So I'll switch off and I'll realign in a sec. Right, so what I've done is I've put it on to a Pepsi bottle there, and I'm just going to turn on the petrol. You can see that's flowing, so it's not a flow of a petrol issue. Right, take all that apart again. I'll move the scooter in a bit, and I'll put it. See, putting my hand over here, this should be soaked now. There you go.
What I'm trying to do at the moment is just get it to warm up. I'm not bothered about adjusting anything at the moment. I want it to be able to run with the air going neatly into it instead of dying out. It's just not running on the air at the moment. See, it won't run with no air at the moment, with no air filter on, which it should do. I'm just going to take out the spark plug and have a look. But this is the joys of owning any classic sort of scooter. It's working through problems. Clean. Bit dry, I suppose, not wet, not dry. You can see the vapour coming out. Putting the spark plug back in again. Just going to kick it over again and try and keep it going for a while. It could be that I've got the mixture settings all completely wrong. What I'm going to do is I want the bike warmed up, so rather than keep moving the camera etc, I'm going to cut out for a little while and take it from there. So next time it comes back it should be ticking over at least. Just an update, the petrol tank's nearly empty, that's why it won't run properly. If I keep pressing down on the float, it tick over all day while there's fuel going to it. As soon as I let go of the float, it's running dry because there's none. It's like got not enough pressure to push against the float. So I've taken a reading of the pressure because the engine, I did actually get it warm, and it's around about 95 pounds. So I'm going to get some petrol, go out for a spin later on, get some petrol and fill it up tomorrow, and we'll see how it runs with a full tank of petrol. But I'm still working through the issues with the starting. Seems to start okay when there's fuel in it and you cover off the carb, so it should be no reason why when I put some fresh petrol in it tomorrow and give it a few kicks, that it shouldn't start straight away. What I'm going to do is I will work through with the carburetor just on. I've taken the cowling off because it's easier to adjust the carb, but I'll have to do that again tomorrow when I get it running, because obviously I haven't got enough petrol coming through to fight against the carburetor. At first I thought it, you know, the reason for buying the pressure gauge basically was just to check, see if the piston and barrel were worn, but when I built this engine it did look like it had just had a rebore. It's got an original Piaggio crankshaft in it. I will give the story out in a bit. I ended up with a new set of casings because the casings were cracked. I'll show you that in a later video in the series. But as far as I can go today without any petrol, I've got tons of oil. That's not an issue. It's these run on 6% as well, which is probably a tad rich with fully synthetic anyway. But because they don't run needle roller bearings on the small end, they do need the lubrication. So I've found in the past, if you just put any two-stroke oil, the stuff from Wilco's, the comma stuff, because you're putting 6% in there, you're literally, you're killing the ozone layer in driving one of these scooters on your own anyway. They slightly got better on the 160s and the SS. They run to 5% on them, but when you're thinking about a P200 nowadays is running on 2, all it is because the bearings are not phosphor bronze bushes, they're actual needle rollers. The crankshafts have been improved, so you need less lubrication. So these old beasties, I think they erred on the side of caution anyway. But you can see, if I just move you down a bit again, the engine is still, it's good enough to eat your dinner off of, basically. It's as clean as when I built it. So we've got no leaks, etc. That's from being sat on the floor, basically, with the exhaust pumping out rubbish. They do run smoky, these are old GS's anyway, so I'd be worried if I was driving one and it didn't smoke. I'll end the video here today on this. I don't want to keep dragging out videos too long that people watch for 5 minutes and then switch off getting bored. But you can actually see, look in there, the cylinder head, etc. They were all good. Like I say, piston and barrel, when I checked the clearances on it, were superb. It looked like the guy had the engine rebuilt and then stopped using it. And like I say, the bearings extra, I swapped all the bearings out anyway to be on the safe side, and oil seals. But like I say, apart from some cables that have stretched, which I expected them to, and the front brake binding slightly when you pull it on, they are SIP brake shoes in there, brand spanking new. Back ones are just Piaggio ones, not the SIP sort of compound ones. The reason for that is when I ordered the set from SIP, they sent SIP ones in the front and Piaggio's for the back for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they'd run out of stock, but the ones on the front are sintered, and it is a really good front brake, to be honest with you. It's probably miles better than most standard drum brakes on a Vespa, but we'll get there. I'll get them slackened off. They're all going to be parts of the video that we see here anyway. So I've switched off for tonight, and we'll catch up on the next video. Once again, thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, everybody. And as you can see, we got snow still, so it's not ideal weather to be out in sheds doing this sort of work, but hey ho, it's something I enjoy, and hopefully you enjoy watching it too. So take care, everybody. Catch you on the next one. Bye.